Now, what that means is petition number 99, court has determined the apex court. Now, what has happened since has been commented by opposition MPs, who say the most veiled things. Oh, they've always been they're losing every time. Well, if you're arguing, and if you can't frame a legal argument with 3 helpers and a flashlight, and if you cannot understand law, then what is the court to do? You keep filing frivolous appeals. You keep taking arguments that don't have any legal merit. What is the court to do? The court can't pretend that because you've been losing all the time, well, oh, you should win. 2019, all of the no confidence motion cases, all of the cases to do with the appointment of Patterson as the chairman, all of the matters that followed the elections. How can a court sit by when they're clearly frivolous arguments that hold no merit, and because you've lost every one, for the sake of fairness, say, oh, well, you should win this one? It doesn't work that way. I have said it before. I am one of the attorneys that have been involved in litigation that has gone all the way on the side of the present government. And it's very straightforward. Every lawyer knows by reading the statute way in advance. This is not complicated law. This is not complex legal arguments. This is not anything complicated. This is very simple, plain English language. Now, I have seen, and the veiled inferences that are raised is now that you can't avoid the fact of the poor legal arguments and the poor cases that are being presented in the apex court and the constant loss every time after time after time. Now that that can't be explained, you turn the other way. You say about who the president of the court meets when he's in the country. You try to raise within, by implication and inference, that somehow the court is biased because they meet the individuals who are in government. There was no opposition leader at the time that the president of the court was here, by the way. So there was nobody for him to meet. But you say these things to infer, to color, to try to distort the integrity of the court. But you didn't do that when the third term case went to the court. You celebrated the court then because you won. So it's obvious that when you lose, when you don't get your way, you can't argue or you can't formulate proper legal arguments. So you can't win on the merits. Then you do the next thing. You attack the credibility and the personalities of the court. That is entirely out of order. The attack on the court should not go without comment. One person said, one opposition MP, is pontificated that the actions of the Attorney General should not be condoned because he said earlier than the date of delivery of the judgment that was the result. Now know this, right? Know this. I've been going to that court and since 2008, 2009. It is a well-established practice of that court that all of the attorneys involved are sent advance copies. There is no special treatment there. There is no unique or favor being granted. All of the people who are involved in the litigation get an advance copy. So, and the court issued a statement today to that effect, so that they can make comment, not so they can re-argue the case. They can make comment, there might be spelling, there might be grammar, there might be names incorrectly mentioned. Simple things can be corrected before the final decision is delivered. Now, that is no reason to attack the court. That is no reason to do that. And to imply by that. In the third term case, the decision was given in advance too. The lawyers knew. This is common practice. This is not unusual. And we should not be caught up in that string that tries to stifle the truth. The truth is the arguments had no merits. And in the absence of merit, in the absence of credible arguments, you're going to lose your case. Every lawyer knows this. This is a fact. Criticizing the court, politicians, opposition MPs should not, by inference, try to undermine the credibility of the court and say to them that this is why the rest of the Caribbean is not at the court and that other people in the Caribbean has the same question. That is not true. That is preposterous. The other Caribbean territories, they have always had the Privy Council. In the early 1970s, Forbes-Burnham removed that court. We had the Court of Appeal in Guyana only. The PNC party flag flew on that building. The present vice president was president when all of this was done in CARICOM to bring about a court. If there was a country in CARICOM that desperately needed a third court, an apex court, it was Guyana. Why? Take, for example, this. In all of these election cases that have come about since the no confidence motion, how many times has the Court of Appeal been overturned? Just think about it. If we had no other court to go to, if there was no other tribunal to approach, what would have happened? And the decisions, some of the decisions of the Court of Appeal leaves a lot to be desired. 33 is not a majority of 65. I mean, come on, man. That's preposterous. I can't imagine. That's not an argument of law. It's simple mathematics. But Guyana desperately needed to have a apex court. The rest of the Caribbean, unlike Guyana, did not abolish the Privy Council. And they have maintained their path to the Privy Council. Now, they have maintained their path to the Privy Council, which is doing a fine job for them. There is no urgency in those nations to move from the Privy Council to the Caribbean Court of Justice. It is not an indictment on the Caribbean Court of Justice. It's moved by different factors. Change in most countries, in most places. Change is such a fundamental change to a judicial system. You need to consider it carefully. And what changes will it bring about? So change in itself is one of the reasons. The other side of the coin that you have to address is the impetus, the will, the urgency. It's not an indictment on the court. And for those of you in opposition who think that you want to make veiled threats and inferences, be man enough. Come out and call the court what you want. Don't infer bias. Do what you think you want to do. Have the courage to support whatever you say. And have the courage to not hide behind the incompetence of your legal arguments to say you are continuously losing. You're losing because you have no merit. Pure and simple. And, I mean, we're talking about the whole issue about the elections petitions and the claims of rigging. I'm sure everyone by now has seen the social media posts and the news posts across the media that a member of the PNC is saying that the PNC elections that were recently had within the party was rigged and it was unfair, and there's no accountability for the people who could vote, that the numbers didn't add up. All that has happened is now we are seeing what the internals of that party is, because people are starting to speak out. People are not letting it go. How could that have happened? I'm not surprised. I don't know if you are. Now, one of the other things that I'd like to touch on is Minister Nigel Darmalal has indicated to GCOM has indicated they are in a position to do local government elections. And March 13th is when local government elections next year will take place. The immediate response of the opposition is that we're not ready to do local government elections. We have to do all of this electoral reform. Now, local government elections are essential. They are an important part of the democratic process. I know that general elections get a lot more attention. Fairly so. General elections generate a lot more, I don't want to say controversy, but interest. They generate a lot more because, of course, the presidency is at stake and the parliamentary seats are at stake. But local government elections, make no bones about it, it's important. Every citizen lives in a community, and every community in this entire country are governed by either NDCs, Neighborhood Democratic Councils, or town councils like Mayor and City Council. Those are the local government component of democracy. And our laws provide that they should be had from time to time in shorter periods than when we do general elections. And we should have them. There should be accountability. We shouldn't have a situation where you have one election, local government, their council is in, there's mayors in, and then you don't do it for years at a time. The laws provide that it has to be within a certain period. And we should do that because every citizen and living in every community should have the right to elect their leaders. And we should take into consideration that their views that they may want to express, the right to vote is an important one. And how they vote is important. It is their right. How they vote is their conscience. And they're entitled to do what they want.
So how can you resist local government elections? But I'll tell you one of the things. That's strange, right? I can't resist but to respond to some of the things that are said by opposition persons about the local government, that we must first fix GCOM. Now, we must first fix GCOM, and we must first fix our electoral laws, and we must first do all, and they say the consultations are negative. That's not true. The proposed amendments and the consultation process that is going through. The proposed amendments are being explained. The consultations with persons and relevant parties and the citizenry as a whole is ongoing. But make no bones about it. And I speak, my view is, in the last election we had, all that transpired about the errors or the flaws and the faults of GCOM were the errors and the faults of people, individuals. There was no real, the law just did not believe that people could be so dishonest in the exercise of public functions, that they can take positions and hold opinions that were so unreasonable, that they could interpret laws, clear laws, in such an obtuse way. And most of this was ventilated in the courts, where the courts had to essentially babysit and shepherd the interpretation process through. Give directions. You can't do that. You can't hold up and have tabulated sheets. You have to have the SOPs. People are entitled to see it. This is clearly in the law. But those things happened because of what was going on with interference. And if that interference did not take place, if those unreasonable views were not held, if those perverse interpretations of the law did not take place, we would have had no difficulties. We would have had no difficulties. Yes, I agree that some change is required. But the changes are required because now we're wiser. We should have stiffer penalties. We should have compulsions when it relates to Region 4 about what happens with SOPs. How can you do it? Meaning the CEO, what can he do? Where can he, what avenues he has, what he must do when he receives SOPs, the public display, the whole nation must know. We can improve that, and that's what the legislation is intended to do. And that's what the legislation that we presently, the amendments that are being discussed, that's what it will do. But don't let that take you away, please. Every citizen of Guyana should have their voice heard at the ballot box. And don't let all of these distractions take you away from making sure you're registered, making sure that your registration is in your area, making sure that you know this March 13th is the date, making sure you find out where you have to go and vote, making sure that you identify your polling station, and come March 13th, go and peacefully exercise your franchise. Vote your choice. Now, local government elections are a little different than general elections, but the principles are the same. You go to the polling station, you exercise your vote. There might be, in addition to the regular political parties or the usual political parties, there may be local people who are on the ballot. You have to consider, but again, the process, although it is for a different, it's not for the presidency, so it's for the local governing structures and framework, it's exactly the same. And you should treat it exactly the same, and you should exercise your vote for that. Now, one of the things that we must speak about is the progress that you see everywhere in Guyana. Now, it's easy for people to discount it and take it as a given, but understand this. It takes leadership, His Excellency and his cabinet. It takes planning from them. It takes guidance. It takes vision for all that you're seeing happening around you to take place. And it's moving at a great pace. I mean, there's so much going on with construction, with roads. We're seeing it every day. But then we have this additional, as if the internal, Guyana, if it's not enough, you can see the external. Part of one of the things that has happened in this recent week is we are allowed, every valid passport holder, Guyanese passport holder, can go to the United Kingdom now without a visa and remain there for up to 6 months. Now, that is huge. You know, in the 90s, before independence, of course, we were allowed to travel. Guyanese citizens were allowed to travel while we were a colony, of course. Post-independence, we were also allowed to travel without the requirement and the need for visas. But then came the destruction of the country, the destruction of our economy, the destruction of our economic processes, our economic engines. We had a dictatorship. This is no secret. The country tanked. With that, many Guyanese were forced to live in exile, to go to other places to try to make a living. And for various reasons, people had to leave. With the high rate at which people wanted to leave, with the high rate at which people were leaving Guyana and going elsewhere, places like the United States, Canada, England started to impose visa requirements so that they can control and assess those who come. Now, Guyana's growth, recent growth, it's meteoric. Guyana's recent progress is phenomenal. And part of that is with the recognition from the British government that Guyana is now a place where we can relax visa rules. We can trust that they're not going to be the challenges and difficulties from before. And that is an indication of the forward growth, the upward movement of Guyana. And that upward movement and forward growth is from His Excellency and the Cabinet and the direction, the guidance, the movement. This is how it happens. And in time to come, I am sure, I am no foreign policy expert, but I can say to you that you're going to notice and you're going to observe in time to come, you're going to see further relaxing by various agencies and various countries of restrictions that currently exist. Now, one of the things that we have to be that we need to be very careful about, if I can just go back a little bit to the local government elections. Yes, we know that what's going to happen is with the announcement of an election, a date for elections, the major political parties and the various persons are going to go into what we would refer to as election mode. They're going to be saying a lot of things. Now, I want to say to everybody that you should be cautious and be careful about what you will be consuming on social media. Now, for example, just today we have this, I hate to say it, but he is a keyboard puppet because he lives in New York. He doesn't come to Guyana, hasn't come to Guyana for years, and so many persons want to sue him in this country. I doubt that he would be coming to Guyana. But his constant tread and his constant message is one of hate. And this is what we must resist. We must resist these arguments, these absolutely unfounded arguments of hatred, of race, of just saying things for the sake of saying it. Have no support, have no grounding to it, have no foundation to it, but you spew this hatred and this racism all the time. And it would do well for that keyboard puppet to understand the damage that he does to those in the country who look to him for leadership. Leadership is made of sterner stuff. It's made of people who can accept what is the position, what is the challenge confronting, and have a reasonable and a practical approach as to how to tackle it. Now, how do you do so when all you stir up in people is hatred? All that you stir up in people is that, the government is only doing this for these people. The government is only doing this for their own supporters. Well, recently, anybody who would care to be aware or read on social media anyway would see that in Linden there's been their houses. His Excellency was in Linden about various projects, that there's a call center. The last 2 days there's a call center in Linden trying to recruit employees to work in that call center. There is construction going on. That's a source of employment. There is employment being provided otherwise. These are all efforts to make people's lives better. And it doesn't matter. Anyone who looked at the last general election will see that where the votes and for which party Linden, which is principal population center in Region 10, voted for. But that didn't change anything. That didn't change the approach of the government that, we need to, we wouldn't do anything there. There's a lot going on in Linden. There's a lot of investment going there. There's a lot of movement to get people there, get them employed, get them working, give them opportunities, make sure there are incentives for businessmen to put businesses there. That's taking place. And anybody who will push this agenda of race and hatred, resist it. Because they have nothing else to say. They have nothing of value to bring to the table. They have no way of engaging you in a meaningful way. So they go to base fears. They go to base things to try to incite people to do things, to react not based on information, but react based on fears, on insecurities. Resist that. That's not going to get anyone any place. Therefore, they will continue to do this. What we should do is resist it. Don't accept it. Just don't buy what they're selling. Resist it, move away from it, go away from it. Now, the other thing that's happening and that we must make some comment on is the events of the last election. What is being said is that the resistance to the petitions in the court by the Attorney General and by the government is because you don't want things or you don't want the events of what took place to be open to scrutiny. And we see these very foolish arguments that are entirely rational. There is a commission of inquiry that has been set up. I think everyone knows that. That commission of inquiry is made up of 3 persons. That commission of inquiry is going to take evidence, and that commission of inquiry is going to gather all the information as to what happened. Now, that will be a tribunal with the power to find out the facts and to pronounce upon them. We don't need to have the election petition process for that. There is clearly the view of the Attorney General and the government, and I share that view entirely, that the petitions are entirely without merit. The petitions are based on a framework, a legal framework that cannot be supported by any interpretation of our law. There simply is nothing in it. Now, the petition that did not comply with the rules, and as I said at the very beginning, that has died because the Caribbean Court of Justice has simply put it to rest now. What are we to do? Are you to say that, okay, because you want to have, or because you want to, if we resist this, and if there's resistance to these petitions, it means you don't want to know what happened? That's a non sequitur. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't apply. An indication that you want to have the facts clear is the establishment by the president of a commission of inquiry. That's why a commission of inquiry was instituted, was set up. That's why we have brought jurists from outside of the country so that no one can say, well, oh, you're on this side or you're on that side. But you've brought people from overseas who will have an impact on what is happening. So it's very foolish for you to say, well, oh, you're resisting our petitions because you don't want everyone to know what happened. You're resisting your petitions because they have no legal foundation. They're premised on utter nonsense. They will not bring a result that was being sought, which is to document what took place. That's what a commission of inquiry is for. There is no need to simply gloss over and allow petitions to continue that have no basis in law and have no ability to deliver any meaningful contribution as to, or record as to what took place in that election. There's no need to support it. The Commission of Inquiry will achieve that. And it will achieve it by, to explain to you how a Commission of Inquiry would work, just a little bit. It's very simple. The members that are there, witnesses will go and give evidence as to what transpired. Records, official records, unofficial records, records from journalists and media houses are going to be made available, or they're going to be requested. People will go there and give evidence. They will look at all the footage. There was a lot of footage about what was going on. All of that would be taken where those jurists, they're experienced judges, they're going to take that information on board. They're going to make a record of all the witnesses, and what every witness said, what evidence was received, what videos were seen, what recordings were had. We'll listen to all of that. They're going to document, and then they're going to make, following that, they're going to make pronouncements that this is what we saw, this is what took place, this is what happened, that is going to happen, and perhaps from it will come some recommendations. Now, that position, and that is going to be a comprehensive account, so that everyone can say, this is what happened in 2020, and I would add, it should never happen again. And this is what we as a nation must resist, that this must never take place again. Now, the resistance to the local government elections about the laws, and they need to fix things to do with the voters list, don't be fooled by it. Don't get sucked into it. It doesn't work that way. You know, we have laws that provide that as long as you are here in Guyana, you're a Guyanese citizen, you can go get registered to vote. If perchance you leave Guyana, we can't remove your name on the voters list because residency is not a requirement. If you have died, there is usually a death certificate will be provided and your name is removed. Now, you can't go about removing persons from the voters list because they travel or they might be overseas. They might be temporarily overseas. They might be students who are at university. There are all these things, but the most important thing is it allows persons with mischievous intent to remove people from the voters list. It disenfranchises them. It takes away their fundamental right. That's what happened in the 80s and the 70s. The people's right to vote was interfered with, which is why it has now come to this rule. This is why these rules came about. This is why the laws that now exist are in place. This is why the security features that are for the ballots, etc., are now in place. It is because of our experience of the past. And if in that time there was the power to remove people from the voters list, and it was done for nefarious reasons, and people were disenfranchised. There was no ID card requirement, there was no ink on your finger requirement, and what happened is people turned up to the polling stations and they were told they already voted. Now, those are the experiences of the 70s and 80s that we've learned from. So we can't, don't be fooled. Our list is accurate, and even if people live outside of Guyana, they're entitled to remain on the list. This is common in many countries in the Caribbean, where persons are on the list but they live elsewhere, but they're citizens and they were there and they satisfied the requirements to be recorded and to be registered, and they should be allowed to vote. So to all the viewers who joined us tonight on the Thursday agenda, this was the first edition of the Thursday agenda. As the name suggests, we're going to be back next Thursday, same time, same place, 8 p.m. We're going to have an agenda of items that we're going to try our very best to analyze and to explain to you, our viewers. We're going to be a little bit more interactive on the next occasion. For those of you who are on Facebook, on the PPPC page, on my page, on some of my colleague MP pages, and will be commenting, we're going to be able to see your comments and to be able to try to do our best that we can to assist you with an answer if you have a question, to provide you with information if you need it. And hopefully what it will do is it will assist you in getting information or getting some of the answers that you would like to get. This is the Thursday agenda. I am Sanjeev Datadin. Thank you very much for spending the last hour with me. I'll see you next week Thursday, and until then, may your God be with you and be safe.